Maryland football recruiting could be in trouble.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I believe that Maryland football's recruiting in the 2025 class could be in trouble. It could be in trouble. After this weekend of the official visit, where it's the biggest weekend of Maryland football recruiting in a really long time, where we had a chance to make an impression on a lot of different, really high-level players for Maryland football that we really wanted. A bunch of guys that were from the DMV, some guys that weren't, a bunch of 4-star rated players that I've said that if we want to make the push as a program, if we want to go to the next level, then we are going to have to figure out a way to land some of these 4-star types of players, some of these high-level players in the DMV. And I'm not saying quite yet that I know that this recruiting weekend didn't go as well as we probably would have. I'm not saying that's true, but I do have this kind of feeling and a couple things to back it up that I think Maryland football recruiting could be in a little bit of trouble, and it could just be exactly where we expect it to be, where it's been the last couple of years. And that's not a bad thing, but it's like, we don't want to be the same we've always been. We don't want to be the same team that, oh, we have a solid recruiting class. Oh, maybe we have 2 or 3, 4 stars, but it's really mainly just 3 stars. We want to figure out how to make a jump. We want to figure out how to do things differently. And I've seen some things that are positive signs after this official visit, where we had a bunch of really good players on this official visit for the Maryland Terrapins. And I've seen some positive signs in terms of the guys that we're starting to get. But I've also seen some signs where it's like, I don't know if this is going to go the way it's supposed to go or the way we want it to go. I'm not going to say supposed to go. Like, we've landed some really good players. Iverson Howard's a 4-star on some websites, and Jet White is a really good player that we landed a couple weeks ago. But there's a lot of things that we still need to get in this 2025 class, and there's a lot of guys still out there that are our guys. But I don't feel as confident in us to get them. But there's a couple reasons why. One reason why that I don't feel as confident is because of this Penn State team. Penn State, man. Penn State is out recruiting us in the DMV area. Every single player, I feel like, every single year, there's like 1 or 2 guys that it comes down to Maryland, Penn State, and maybe one other school. But Penn State seems to always beat us out. It always seems like they choose Penn State, and can I blame them? Penn State's a really good football program right now. Coach Franklin really has the Nittany Lions in a really good spot, but it feels like every single year there's a guy that we really want that could really play really early for us, and if they go to Penn State, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get on the field. But Penn State ends up beating us out anyway. And that's what just happened with this kid, Cortez Harris, who I thought we had a really good shot at landing. I thought we were right in it till the end, but he ended up going to Penn State. It seemed like it was between us and Penn State and maybe 1 or 2 other schools, but it seemed like us and Penn State were really the favorites there. But he ended up committing to Penn State, but he's a Maryland kid. He's an edge. And Penn State is going to get a lot of these edges. But remember Harvey from last year? He was also an outside linebacker edge type of guy, 4-star on a lot of websites, and he ended up committed to Penn State. The list goes on and on. There's always guys that Penn State ends up landing that are DMV types of kids that they just beat out Maryland for. And there's a couple of players that coming up that I'm going to talk about a little bit later that have Penn State in their mix, that have Penn State in some of their top schools. And a lot of the guys that we still have left that we really want have Penn State on their school list. And so I'm telling myself, are we just going to get beat out again by Penn State after we get beat out for Cortez Harris, who I thought would have fit perfectly with Maryland? Like I said, 4-star rated player on 247 composite, ranked 248th on the composite rankings, on the normal ratings ranked as a number 26 edge, a really good type of player that Maryland could have added, a type of guy that we would have definitely kind of excelled, and he would have had a really good time at Maryland. I think he would have played right away. I think he could have done a lot of good things, but Penn State beat us out. And we have multiple big-time recruits that have Penn State in the mix. So I'm saying, not just Penn State, but can we beat out other teams? Is Maryland football recruiting in trouble? Do we have a realistic shot at landing some of these 4-stars that came to visit this weekend? I don't know. Before the weekend, I'd like to think so, but Cortez Harris is a reminder to me that these other blue bloods, these other really good programs right now, in the past have beat us out. So what has changed this year? I come in and I start asking myself, what has changed? Has the way they've recruited changed? Has the visits changed? Has the NIL money changed? What has changed to make me believe that we are actually going to have a chance at landing some of these guys? Like a Malik Washington, who we're going to talk about in a second, like a Jeffrey Exenor, like a Blake Woodby, like some of these other guys that are 4-star rated that have some other really good programs in the mix. Why should I feel that Maryland is going to land these guys after we haven't really been able to string that many really top level types of recruits? We haven't been able to do that. And so I came away from this recruiting weekend feeling good, seeing all these guys posting pictures and whatever and being like, oh, okay, we're in a good spot. People want to go to Maryland. It's looking pretty good for the Terps. And then I'm like, more and more I think about it, I'm like, what has changed? Why are we going to land 4 or 5 4-star types of guys? How can we take this this new step? And I say, I don't know if anything really has. I don't know if, sure, maybe something here, maybe there's a little bit more NIL, but I don't know if there's been a major changes to say that I feel good about where Maryland football recruiting is. And the other thing that I say, the reason Maryland football could be in trouble is because Julian Horton, who I was really, really high on Julian Horton. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Julian Horton. He was committed to Maryland. He looked like he could be one of the more underrated players in the 2025 class. He looked like the guy that was like, oh, shoot, this guy's a 3-star right now, but give him a little bit of time, give him a couple of months, and don't be surprised if this kid's a 4-star. And he decommitted from Maryland, and that's a thing that kind of concerns me when a guy like this decides to decommit from Maryland. And he went on a visit to UNC, and now it says that his crystal ball is almost 100% to UNC. See what I mean? And UNC isn't a program that I'm like, oh my gosh, football, like UNC. It's not Penn State type of pedigree, but it's still a solid program where people want to go to North Carolina. It's a cool school to go to. But at the same time, I'm like, we're getting beat out for a committed kid for UNC, a Maryland kid. He's a Maryland kid. He's a safety. He's a Maryland kid, and UNC beats us out for him. You guys see where I'm coming from? And this kid, I'm telling you, this kid was starting to get a lot of interest in different things. And I'm not even exactly sure why all of a sudden he seemed to be getting. He went on there was another offer that he had that was a pretty big time offer that had came over recently, I'm pretty sure. But he started to get some big time types of offers that I'm like, okay, can Maryland maintain this kid? And it's like, no, it was Michigan. Michigan really liked this kid as well. And it looks like he could be off to North Carolina, but Michigan is definitely in play as well. And so I'm saying Michigan's another football program. hard team that I don't know if we can beat them out. We lost Jayshawn Barham to them, and I'm not saying like that's a bad thing or good thing for Jayshawn Barham to leave Maryland, but I mean, I can't blame him almost. It's like he wants to go play at the highest level. And so I'm saying Maryland has to be able to keep a kid like Julian Horton. We have to be able to land a kid like Cortez Harris if we want to take this recruiting to the next level. And so I am concerned about Maryland football recruiting. Yes, a lot of things could change. And I'm going to talk about a couple guys that could change my concern level in a sec. But right now, I'm concerned that it's going to be the same old, same old. And my thing is, I don't know. It's hard to change your ways. It's hard to take the next level in recruiting. It really is hard because it's kind of college football is kind of set up for the same teams every year to be kind of the same types of spots. Maryland's set up to be a 7-8 win team right now. Teams like Alabama are set up to be in the college football playoff. And some teams are set up to not be good. That's kind of how it is. And it's really hard to get out of that. But there's teams that I've seen that have been recruiting at a really high level, and one of them's our fellow Big Ten, and that's Rutgers. And I'm like, what the heck? Rutgers is number 2 in the Big Ten for the 2025 class and 9th nationally all of a sudden? We've beaten Rutgers. I would say we are the better program than Rutgers right now. And I see that they have landed Michael Thomas, a really high-level 4-star player. And maybe this makes me the most mad that I'm like, why can't we get this Tariq Hare kid from St. John's in Washington, D.C. that's a 4-star player? They got a 4-star linebacker, a 4-star athlete, a 4-star defensive lineman. And I'm like, what has Rutgers done to be able to earn these types of guys? I don't know, but somehow, some way, Rutgers figured it out. And I don't know how, I don't know what it is. It might be more NIL. I don't know, but Rutgers isn't a better program than us. So I know that it's possible, but when I see other schools being able to take a jump and not us, I'm concerned. When I see Penn State come in and take Cortez Harris, I'm going to start to get concerned. And when I see Julian Horton not commit, but decommit, and it looks like he's headed to Michigan or UNC, I'm concerned. So overall, there's still a lot of things to go, but Maryland football seems like their recruiting could be in trouble for the 2025 class. Malik Washington and Jeffrey Exnor, 2 huge prospects on our 2025 class, are getting ready to make their commitment. I will tell you why it's extremely important after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I've been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on the tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after its start. It's a place to find last-minute tickets to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So Malik Washington and Jeffrey Exner are set to make their decisions coming up, which is extremely so important for Maryland football for these decisions. I can't even just put it in how important it is for these Maryland to be able to maybe land one of these kids, both of these kids, hopefully not none of these kids, but both are ready, it sounds like, to make their decision, which is a pretty big deal for Maryland football. And they'll be competing against some of the schools that I've said we've had trouble competing against in the past. So Jeffrey Exnor, if you guys don't know Jeffrey Exnor, he's 4-star receiver, tight end type of athlete out of McDonough School, and he's really a freak of nature. He plays basketball as well, and McDonough's the same school as Dante Trader went to, Preston Howard went to. So you're probably hoping that those guys are like pushing for Jeffrey Exenor to come to Maryland. But this isn't like your normal Maryland type of recruit that's like a 3-star, pretty good player. He's a 4-star, really highly coveted type of guy that it looks like the decision is between Penn State and Maryland. And so I come down to it, and this kind of goes back to what I said in the first segment. Maryland football recruiting could be in trouble because Penn State has been really good at landing guys in our area, like I talked about with Cortez Walker, and there's been many other different guys. And so I'm looking at Jeffrey Exenor, and right now, to be completely honest, I never lied to you guys. He is crystal balled to Penn State, and it says it's 100% by Brian Don, who's one of the leaders at 247. But he's ranked as the 273rd ranked nationally. He's ranked as the 11th athlete and 7th in the state of Maryland. He's 6'2", 220. I've seen him. He's like a freak. Like this kid can do a bunch of different things. But it's so important for us to be able to maybe push the land this kid. After seeing the Penn State 100%, it's hard to feel like we're going to land him, to be completely honest. But I do think we're definitely in it. There's only 2 schools in it, so I think we're definitely in the battle. Whenever it's a 2-team race, you'd like to think you have a chance. But him, a 4-star guy, DMV kid, staying home, think it's really important. This is the same type of theme that we've been talking about. It's really important that we land a kid like this if we want to take the next level, because this kid has a chance to be a really good player, and we're going to need receiving talent. Sure, we have some good guys, but right now, Caden Prather is going to be gone. Ty Felton's going to be gone, and we're going to need guys to replace that production. And here's a guy that I think he plays receiver, but he also could play maybe tight end if he puts on some weight. But here's a guy who's a freak in nature that we need on this team, and that we need to pick up some momentum in recruiting after losing some over these past couple of days. And then Malik Washington is also set to make his decision. Now, Malik Washington is a little bit of a different story because Malik Washington does say that, it does say on 247 that he is 100% to Maryland. He will make his announcement on June 28th on the 247 Sports YouTube channel. But of course, Malik Washington, a 4-star quarterback, the biggest recruit in our 2025 class. If we wanted to land one recruit in the 2025 class, it would be Malik Washington. And so I'm coming around and I'm saying, please let us land Malik Washington. And I feel better about us landing Malik Washington for sure because the crystal ball, but also the teams we're competing against, UCF, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, I'm not too concerned about, to be completely honest. I do feel like it's Maryland for Malik Washington. I think that the staff did a really good job of selling it, but don't let this backfire. And landing Malik Washington's a program changer. And those dates are going to be huge on Friday. I wonder what time exactly that they're going to announce, but I might wait till after on Friday to release the podcast, because to see if they land or not, I might wait till after on Friday, depending on what time they plan on committing. But it is a huge deal for Jeffrey Exenor and Malik Washington, 2 guys that could make our recruiting class really good and headed in the right direction. And we forget about Julian Horton and we forget about Cortez Walker, or if we don't land either of them, it's like it's going to be really disappointing. Honestly, it'll stink. It'll definitely stink if we're not able to land either one of them. That would definitely hurt the soul of me, Maryland fans, and other people, because it's like, where do we go from here? Then it's like, can we even have the same type of recruiting classes that we've had the last couple of years? Can we even get there? It's like, I don't know. And you know what I say? It's a domino effect when a guy like Malik Washington and Jeffrey Exnor commit. So if you're able to get one or two of those types of guys, it's a lot easier to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those types of players. But it's extremely important dates for Maryland football coming up. Maryland adds another commit. I will talk about that right now. Maryland football adds another really good high-level type of player that looks like he's going to be a really solid player for Maryland football in Lamar Williams. So this is important that Maryland football landed another offensive lineman, and this kid Lamar Williams looks like he's going to actually be a really good player. And so there's a couple of different things to know about Lamar Williams. He definitely keeps our recruiting level. After I talked about just now, we lost Julian Horton, we lost Cortez Harrison. There wasn't a ton to get excited about, but landing Lamar Williams feels like a guy that is a type of player that fits Maryland, that's a highly talented type of guy that was committed to Miami at first and had a lot of really good offers. But Miami was the choice for him at first, but decommitted from Miami, and I'm not mad at it at all. And I think he has a talent to be a really good player. First of all, he has the frame that you absolutely covet, that you absolutely want from an offensive tackle. Perfect type of frame. He's 6'6", and he's 270. He has the height for one. You can't teach height. Can't do anything to make the guy taller. And so when the offensive linemen aren't very tall, there's not much that you can do. So I like to think that he has long arms, which is good. But 6'6" that's perfect. That's the type of height that you want. He's also 270, which some people might be like, oh, he's light or whatever. He's not huge yet. But that's honestly how a lot of college coaches like it. They rather have a guy that's like 270, 280 at offense on the offensive line, at offensive tackle, and they have to put weight on him and they have to put muscle on him, and the muscle is going to go on the right way, than have a guy that's already 315, 320, and it's like, how do we exactly approach this guy? He's already kind of big, but he's still not as strong as he needs to be, but we don't want him to put on too much weight. It's a lot better. They like guys where they can fill out the frame themselves. So a guy that's 6'6", 280 is perfect for Maryland football and the coaching staff and our strength and conditioning staff. They're going to love working with this kid. They're going to love being able to coach this kid. And he's athletic. He can move. He can do a lot of different things at the college level, I think. And he had a lot of different types of offers and interest. Had some high level stuff, had some low. There's a lot of different types of things. His offer list is really interesting, to be honest. If you look at someone's offers list, it's always interesting. He visited Clemson but didn't get an offer, looks like. Had an offer from West Virginia, had the offer from Miami, has an offer from Georgia Tech, has an offer from Florida State, has, of course, the offer from Maryland and some other lower tier types of offers as well. So his offer list is interesting, and Miami doesn't really recruit slouches. So I like to think that this kid is a good player, especially for the fact that Miami also feels pretty high level about him as well. And so I feel pretty good about this kid. I feel pretty good after losing a couple guys. Like I said, he is the 65th ranked offensive tackle, 86th ranked player in Florida, and the 525th ranked player on 247 composite, which is not bad at all. And the 69th ranked player in Florida on the composite rankings, but on the normal player ratings, he's the 86th ranked player in Florida. And then it's also interesting, this pipeline with Florida. Maryland's been getting a lot of different Florida guys, and that's been going on the last couple of years. And that's also another thing that's important to keep up. I don't really know exactly why we have this pipeline to Florida, but we seem to keep getting kids to Florida, and it's important for us to land another guy. So this guy was a big commitment. It's nothing insane, but it definitely helps us at the offensive tackle position, and he has a frame that he can grow into. He has feet that we can work with, and I think he's going to have a chance to be a player down the road for Maryland football. We've recruited a lot of offensive line, and it's going to be nice to have depth there in the future. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.